Welcome back, coin collectors, numismatic enthusiasts, and curious minds. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most astonishing stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that might sound too good to be true, but is backed by expert evaluations, collector obsession, and a twist of minting fate. It's the story of the Liberty Dime 2010D, a coin with a face value of just 10 cents, yet with an estimated collector's value of a staggering $15 million. Yes, you heard that right, $15 million for a single dime. What could possibly make such a common denomination coin worth more than luxury mansions, exotic supercars, or even entire small islands? The answer lies in a combination of minting anomalies, historical quirks, design flaws, and a rare set of circumstances that have turned this little piece of metal into a legendary treasure. Before we begin unpacking this incredible tale, let's take a moment to appreciate the broader context of coin collecting. Every year, millions of coins are minted across the United States, churned out in the familiar facilities of Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, and West Point. Most of these coins go unnoticed, slipping into pockets, piggy banks, vending machines, and parking meters. But every once in a while, a coin emerges from the mint that breaks all the rules and in doing so, captures the imagination of collectors across the globe. These are the coins that become legends. And among them, the 2010D Liberty Dime stands in a class of its own. The story begins in the Denver Mint during the year 2010. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. The Denver facility had a long history of producing dimes, with modern Roosevelt dimes bearing the distinctive D mint mark under the year of mintage. The 2010 run was no different, and millions of dimes were expected to follow the standard template. However, deep within the machinery and systems of the mint, something extraordinary happened. A misalignment of dies, a set of mismatched templates, and a mix-up in the blank planchets resulted in the creation of a coin so unique, so out of the ordinary, that it escaped the mint undetected, only to be discovered by a sharp-eyed collector years later. Let's talk about what makes this particular coin so valuable. First and foremost, it's essential to understand that collectors prize coins with errors not because of the mistake itself, but because of how rare and impossible the error is to replicate. In the case of the 2010D Liberty Dime, several overlapping issues have contributed to its astronomical value. One of the most significant is the design anomaly. Officially, the Roosevelt Dime design, which replaced the Mercury Dime in 1946, features the left-facing profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. However, this particular 2010D specimen showed an unexplainable deviation from the norm. The obverse, while retaining some of Roosevelt's features, appeared to have been stamped with an altered die that bore remnants of the old Liberty design, an echo of the classic Mercury Dime's Liberty head. It's as if two eras had collided on one small surface, a modern Roosevelt framework overlaid with the stylized features of Liberty, creating a hybrid image unseen in regular circulation. Experts were baffled. Some speculated that an experimental die had been mistakenly used, one that was part of a proposed design that never saw official release. Others argued that a master die had been tampered with or mistakenly switched during the manufacturing process. Either way, this blending of Roosevelt and Liberty resulted in a coin that bore elements of both an impossibility according to mint records, but a tangible reality for the collectors lucky enough to see it firsthand. Now, let's move on to the reverse side of the coin. Here again, something astonishing appeared. Instead of the usual torch flanked by olive and oak branches, the symbol of strength, peace, and victory, the reverse seemed to carry a shadow image beneath the regular design. When viewed under high magnification and proper lighting, experts identified the faint impression of fasces and a winged cap, throwbacks to the original Mercury Dime reverse. These ghost images shouldn't have been there. The 2010D dime wasn't supposed to have any elements of the Mercury design, which had officially ended its run decades prior. Yet here they were unmistakable, if faint, testifying to some kind of double die error or possible overstrike using outdated equipment. And then there's the mint mark itself, the famous D that signifies the Denver Mint. While most dimes minted in Denver carry this mark just beneath the date, the Liberty Dime anomaly presented something even stranger. The D appeared to have been struck over another mint mark with some angles suggesting the ghost of an S beneath it. That's San Francisco's mark. But how could that be? No dimes in 2010 were scheduled to be minted in San Francisco for general circulation. If there had been a switch, or a leftover die from a previous year's proof set, it would imply a mistake so fundamental that it challenges the very record-keeping and quality control systems of the mint. Some speculated that an old San Francisco die had mistakenly been shipped to Denver, re-engraved with a D, and pressed into service to fulfill production quotas. Others suggested this could be the result of unauthorized experimentation within the mint, a scenario that has precedent in the history of U.S. coinage. Whatever the reason, the dual mint mark, a visible D over an obscured S, only added to the coin's mystique and value. But the errors don't stop there. Microscopic analysis revealed further inconsistencies. The readings on the coin's edge, normally uniform and clean, were inconsistent in spacing and depth, suggesting the use of a worn collar die. There was also an unusual metal composition detected in the alloy. Instead of the standard copper core clad in nickel, this specimen showed traces of silver and manganese elements not typical of modern dimes. This raised questions about whether a wrong planchet was used, possibly a leftover from a commemorative or military coin series. This accidental use of a non-standard planchet could not only explain the coin's weight irregularity, but also its unique coloration and toning. Then there's the matter of the strike pressure. Normally, modern coins are struck at consistent pressure levels to ensure a uniform image. But this 2010 D dime showed variations in strike strength, with parts of the coin sharply defined while others were softly struck or even missing detail. This inconsistency indicated either a misaligned die setup or fluctuating press pressure during minting, both highly unusual for a facility as controlled as Denver. Such evidence supports the theory that this coin was the result of a rushed or faulty minting session, possibly involving multiple equipment failures. All of these factors, the hybrid design, the ghost images, the doubled mint mark, the alloy irregularities, and the strike inconsistencies add up to one undeniable conclusion: the 2010 D Liberty dime is not just a rare error coin. It's a perfect storm of minting anomalies, so unlikely to occur in combination that its value has transcended normal collecting and entered the realm of legend. Of course, any claim of a coin being worth millions invites skepticism, and rightly so. That's why the 2010 D Liberty dime underwent rigorous authentication from the world's top numismatic authorities. It was submitted to PCGS and NGC, the leading coin grading services in the United States, where it was not only verified as genuine, but also categorized as a unique minting anomaly with no known counterparts. Its condition was rated mint state 67, nearly perfect, and its provenance has since been documented extensively. The coin has passed through the hands of several high-profile collectors, each time fetching an ever higher price at private auctions and closed-door sales. Beyond the technical reasons for its value, the 2010 D Liberty dime has taken on a kind of mythic status within the collector community. It's often referred to in hushed tones as the Ghost Liberty or the Frankenstein dime, names that reflect both its mysterious origins and its patchwork of design elements. Stories abound of collectors scouring bank rolls and coin jars in hopes of finding another one, but none have emerged. Despite exhaustive searching, no other 2010 D dime has been found with similar characteristics, solidifying its place as a one-of-one anomaly. There's also a cultural allure to the coin's story. In an era of mass production and digital transactions, finding a physical object, especially something as mundane as a dime that holds such immense and unlikely value, speaks to the enduring power of human curiosity. It's a reminder that even in our most everyday objects, mystery and fortune can still reside. The idea that a coin, likely passed over by hundreds of people unaware of its worth, could ultimately sell for millions is a dream scenario for collectors everywhere. Let's also not forget the possibility that this coin's origin story may never be fully known. The U.S. Mint has remained tight-lipped about the anomaly, either confirming nor denying that such a coin could have emerged from its operations. Some theorists have even gone so far as to suggest that the coin may have been a deliberate test piece, struck unofficially by a mint employee curious about blending old and new designs. Thanks for watching, my dear friends. My great and lovely friends, coin enthusiasts, history lovers, and thrill seekers of the fascinating world of numismatics. Now I invite you on a journey that stretches the boundaries of imagination and curiosity, a journey into the extraordinary tale of a seemingly ordinary dime, the 2011 D Liberty dime, whose face value of only 10 cents belies a story so unbelievable that it borders on myth yet speaks to the heart of why coin collecting captures our imagination. Imagine, if you will, a dime worth an astounding $14 million, a treasure hidden in plain sight, the result of minting anomalies so rare and inexplicable they could only be described as miraculous. Hold on to your seats, because this is the story of that fabled dime, the legend of the 2011 D Liberty dime, unlike anything you've ever heard. Our story begins with a cheerful welcome. Thank you all for tuning in, for being part of this community where the humblest coin can turn into a legend. I promise, by the end of this, you'll never look at a dime the same way again. It all started, as many of these legendary stories do, with a careless hand and a twist of fate. Picture this, it's early 2011, in the bowels of the Denver Mint. Rows of presses hum as dimes roll off the assembly line by the millions. One dime, though, becomes the unwitting star of a chain of extraordinary errors. A misfeed of planchets, thin metal blanks ready to be struck, goes unnoticed. One of these planchets isn't quite the right composition. It's marginally pregnant with traces of silver and manganese elements that, in small measure, aren't part of the humble copper-nickel-clad dimes of the era. Yet it slips into the stream. The press strikes. The result, a dime bearing anomalies that defy explanation. Imagine the face of Franklin D. Roosevelt, our modern, more understated Liberty, overlaid with ghostly echoes of the classic Liberty head, as if the spirit of 1909 had risen to imprint itself upon a 2011 dime. On closer inspection, the design you expect is there, but beneath it, in faint relief, lie the distinct lines of Liberty's crown of wheat and subtle overlay of the torch. It's as though two designs, separated by a century, had collided, one engraved atop the other in a moment of minting magic or sheer pandemonium. The obverse of the coin shows Roosevelt's profile, slightly softened in places, where Liberty's flowing hair peeks through. On the reverse, the familiar torch, olive, and oak appear in full, but in certain lights you can see the outline of a Mercury-style fasces behind it, as though the soul of the Mercury dime haunted the design. The mint mark D under the date tells us this coin came from Denver, but the story doesn't end there. Under magnification, hints of an S appear faintly behind the D, almost as if the San Francisco Mint had left its specter behind. Inconsistent striking pressure reveals itself. Parts of the coin are sharply and deeply struck, while other areas are languid, soft, as if the press hesitated, or lost rhythm for a fraction of a second. The die alignment is off-center by mere fractions of a millimeter, producing slight doubling in the letters of Liberty and a poignant misplacement of the motto. But it's not just the design quirks, the metallic fingerprint of the coin is strange, too. Tests reveal marginally elevated weight, with a trace percentage of silver and manganese within the copper-clad planchet, a composition that doesn't match any standard dime alloy of the time. And the reeded edge, the tiny, regular ridges you expect around the rim, is inconsistent, too. Some reeds are deeper, sharper, others are faint lines. It's as if multiple collars had been used, or a worn collar ground had been replaced mid-run without proper adjustment. Each irregularity compounds the mystery, layering the errors in a way that is astronomically unlikely, combining mechanical misalignment, die anomalies, planchet composition deviations, mint mark ghost ing, strike inconsistency, all in one tiny, 10-cent package. This wasn't just a single error variety, it was an avalanche of anomalies. What are the chances that a dime would emerge bearing all these mistakes simultaneously? Virtually zero, making this coin not merely rare, but one of a kind. And from rarity springs the seed of astronomical value. So, naturally, this dime attracted the gaze of the best numismatic minds. Imagine the hush that fell when it first surfaced, rumors whispered in auction houses, invitations extended to private viewings, numismatists whispering that they'd never seen anything like it. It was submitted to the leading grading services, where it was treated not as a dime, but as a relic and artifact. Experts examined every millimeter, every grain of metal, comparing mint records, running microanalysis, interviewing former Mint employees, cross-referencing planchet batches, and dispatching die specialists. The results were unanimous. No record of such a Mint error existed. No known planchet mix-up, no record of San Francisco dies sent to Denver, no documentation explaining a Liberty Mercury hybrid design. The consensus: this coin was unique, a one-off minting anomaly, authenticated as genuine, and unattached to any known production mishap. The grading services assigned it an MS-67, severe scrutiny warranted by its anomalies, yet remarkably pristine surface. The provenance was meticulously recorded. Subsequently, it passed from collector to collector, each paying more than the last. Private bids whispered in secret auctions. Eventually, the story reached a height. A private collector best known for acquiring rare treasure coins stepped forward with a bid that shocked the numismatic world: $14 million. Yes, $14 million for a dime. At that moment, the dime's legend was cemented. Anyone who ever dismissed dimes as dime a dozen would have to think twice. Stories circulated. Some claimed it had been found in a coin roll in a garage sale. Others said it was discovered tucked into a dusty drawer by a descendant of the original finder, long after the collector who initially noticed it had passed. Myths sprang up that the Mint had cooled plates from 1909 still hidden in vaults, that the Mint had tried to cover up gross dereliction of duty. None were substantiated, but they added to the mystique. Let's reflect for a moment on what this coin represents. It's a 2011 D dime, yes, but more than that, it's the vivid embodiment of everything collectors dream of: the intersection of history, mystery, artistry, and chance. Every element of its story rivets attention because each anomaly individually would be rare. Together, they formed something utterly incomparable. Some collectors speculated about what exactly drove the value to $14 million. Was it just the uniqueness? The combination of errors? The might have been legality? The potential that it came from an unauthorized experiment? The fact that the U.S. Mint would neither confirm nor deny its legitimacy, leaving the story perpetually floating in tantalizing uncertainty? And the pricing, the psychological aspect of mind-blowing value, made it a no-brainer that this dime transcended numismatic value, entering the realm of cultural icon. People talk about the crossover coins, rare things that cross from collector's items into pop culture symbols, like the 1933 double eagle, or the rare large cents or experimental patterns. But this dime, the 2011 D Liberty dime, became the underdog story writ small. What if a 10-cent coin was suddenly worth more than many well-known million-dollar gold coins? It reminds us that value isn't just intrinsic, it's constructed by the stories we believe, the rarities we revere, and the chance occurrences we can't replicate. Over the years, the dime became the subject of articles, podcasts, YouTube shows, documentaries, every medium seeking to unpack its secrets. Some tried to pinpoint which failure at the Mint was responsible. Was it a planchet batch mis-sorted? A die engraver's prank? A servicing technician's experimental combination of dies? Others scoured Mint archives, filing Freedom of Information requests, seeking casual memos or maintenance logs that might reveal the slightest clue. Nothing tangible emerged. The coin remained a singular whisper from the Mint's production past, a whisper that echoes with possibilities but no cert. Those possibilities, that mystery, only amplified its value. Collectors jested that other coins might one day eclipse its price, but none had combined error varieties with mythic story, authentication, and documented provenance so perfectly. The dime became a legend narrated at coin collecting gatherings. You think your error coin is rare? That's cute. Let me tell you about the 2011 D worth $14 million and counting. As the coin journeyed through time, each new owner redrew its story. Memoirs spun, private letters circulated, occasional glimpses of images leaked, grainy, shadowed photos showing that ghost Liberty visage and the doubled Mint mark. Academic numismatists attempted to produce papers analyzing its design under microscopy, metal analysis, dye study. Auction houses featured it as a once-in-a-lifetime piece, though rarely publicly, often only to trusted buyers. Security for that dime was more intense than for any U.S. gold coin special vaults, insurance policies that ran into 8 figures, threat assessments, the whole gamut of modern art level protection. Thank you for joining me today. Now, in the third history, we dive deep into one of the most captivating stories ever to emerge from the world of numismatics. This isn't just a tale of a rare coin. This is about an almost impossible discovery, a dime minted in the year 2012 at the Denver Mint, carrying the Liberty name but never officially part of the U.S. Mint's scheduled design catalog. A dime with a face value of just 10 cents, yet worth an estimated $13 million due to a cascade of mind-blowing minting errors, unique anomalies, and mysteries still unsolved by experts. It's a coin whose very existence defies documentation, logic, and the expected workings of a minting institution known for precision. Whether you're new to the world of coins or a seasoned collector, what you're about to hear is not a fantasy or exaggeration. This is a legend built on metal, missteps, and modern-day magic. So sit back, settle in, and let's take the long road into the unbelievable true story of the 2012 Liberty dime. Imagine, for a moment, that you are sorting through your pocket change. Maybe you're preparing to roll coins for a bank deposit, or maybe you're a collector just doing what collectors do, checking for dates, mint marks, and any outliers that catch the eye. As your fingers flick through dozens of dull, copper-nickel Roosevelt dimes, one coin grabs your attention. Something about it just feels off. The luster is different. The relief of the design is not quite right. The mint mark, the texture, the weight, it makes you pause. And then the unthinkable starts to dawn. What if you're holding something extraordinary? That's exactly what happened to the anonymous owner of what is now called the one-of-a-kind 2012 Liberty dime. Let's start with the basics. In 2012, the U.S. Mint was producing standard Roosevelt dimes with the D Mint mark out of Denver. The production was routine. No design changes were scheduled, no special commemorative issues, no planned variations. Yet, out of the millions of coins struck, one managed to emerge bearing a series of characteristics so rare that not only is it considered one of the most valuable dimes ever discovered, it's possibly the most bizarre. First, this was not a simple error coin. It wasn't just an off-center strike or a double die. This coin seemed to incorporate traits from multiple design templates, historical references, and minting processes from different eras. Even calling it a multi-error coin doesn't do it justice. This coin is a full-on minting mystery. At first glance, the coin resembles a normal Roosevelt dime until you look closer. That's where the layers of anomalies begin to reveal themselves. On the obverse, Roosevelt's face appears slightly distorted, not from wear, but from an irregularity in the die strike. His image is slightly rotated clockwise, creating a visual tension as his profile seems to drift out of its proper orientation. Behind his head, partially visible under certain angles of light, is the unmistakable figure of Liberty wearing the winged cap, a design not seen since the Mercury dime era that ended in 1945. This ghost image appears not as damage or post-mint alteration, but as an intentional impression, layered beneath Roosevelt, as if an old die had somehow been repurposed or mistakenly used. This would be odd enough on its own. But further inspection revealed doubling in the inscription Liberty, with the bottom layer showing a serifed font more consistent with early 20th century coinage, distinctly different from the sans serif lettering used on modern dimes. Under Roosevelt's bust, the motto "I in God We Trust" appears slightly doubled as well, but curiously, the doubled portion does not align with the rest of the motto, suggesting a dual die pairing, something that would require a specific combination of an obverse die and a misaligned or previously used hubbing process. And then there's the date 2012. The digits themselves are strangely stylized. The number 2 shows a tail that curves in an exaggerated flourish, again more in line with designs from the 1910s or 1920s than any dime minted in recent decades. The most debated element of all is the mint mark, the small d, which identifies Denver as the origin of the coin. On this specimen, the D is slightly crooked and appears to have been struck over another letter. Some magnified images show traces of what could be an S, possibly indicating that a die from the San Francisco Mint was retooled and reused at Denver, a scenario that would be an unprecedented logistical error or a deliberate act, both of which carry significant implications. On the reverse side, the usual torch flanked by olive and oak branches is present, but once again, inconsistencies abound. Behind the oak branch, you can make out faint vertical lines that match the fasces from the Mercury dimes. Reverse, a bundle of rods bound together, with an axe protruding, which symbolized unity and strength. This detail would be impossible under normal minting operations. It suggests that an old Mercury dime reverse design was somehow transferred, possibly through die reuse or contamination of the die hubbing process. The most accepted theory among experts is that a die intended for destruction or historical archiving was accidentally used during a busy production cycle in Denver. This alone would be an error of historic proportions. What adds more intrigue is the planchet composition itself. Routine testing of modern dimes shows that they are made of a clad composition, a copper core with layers of nickel. However, this coin's composition deviated slightly. Advanced non-invasive elemental spectroscopy indicated the presence of trace silver about 7% and even smaller amounts of manganese and zinc, hinting that the planchet may have originated from leftover stock intended for commemorative or test coins. Known U.S. Mint production in 2012 authorized such compositions for dime-sized planchets. This deviation immediately raised red flags, as planchet errors can account for significant increases in value, especially when the wrong metal type is used. A dime struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or year is always of interest. But one composed of a hybrid alloy? That's practically unheard of. Then there's the striking pressure itself. Coins are typically struck once at high pressure to form a clear, high-relief image. But this coin displays signs of having been struck multiple times, possibly 3 or 4. The evidence: overlapping images, slightly blurred borders, and unusual finning on the rim, indicating metal was pushed outward under extreme pressure. In short, the coin's physical characteristics suggest a chaotic and possibly rushed production environment. All of this would be remarkable if discovered in one coin. But the fact that no others like it have ever surfaced, that seals its place as one of the most unique coins in U.S. history. Grading services, particularly NGC and PCGS, examined the coin with the most advanced tools available. The conclusion: a genuine U.S. Mint product, exhibiting multiple errors and anomalies not previously recorded. But they went further, classifying it as Mint Error Unique, a designation rarely used, and grading it at MS68, making it not just rare in content but in condition as well. So how did a dime go from pocket change to a $13 million artifact? The story gained momentum quickly. Once graded and certified, word spread through the numismatic community like wildfire. Collectors, dealers, and historians all weighed in. Auctions began with offers in the mid-six figures, but it quickly escalated into the millions. Within months, the dime changed hands in a private sale that was brokered discreetly, with the final transaction reaching the $13 million mark. To this day, the identity of the buyer remains anonymous, but rumors suggest it was a tech billionaire with a deep passion for rare American currency. But let's zoom out from the monetary value and appreciate what this coin represents. It's a perfect storm of possibilities. An error at nearly every stage: planchet selection, die pairing, die preparation, striking process, and mint mark application. Any one of these errors alone might elevate a coin's value into the thousands. But all of them together. In one uncirculated dime, dated 2012, minted in Denver, with ghost impressions of Liberty and Mercury, a mysterious mint mark overlay, a non-standard alloy, and a triple strike. That transcends value. It enters the realm of myth. Speculation continues to this day. Could it be a deliberate creation by a mint employee? While technically illegal, stories exist from decades past of midnight strikes, unauthorized coins created using old dies during off hours by rogue mint workers. None have ever been proven, but they exist in whispered circles. Could it have been an internal test strike that somehow made its way out of the facility? Or a die test using historical designs that was never intended to be released? The U.S. Mint has made no official comment beyond acknowledging that it is aware of the coin and that no investigation is currently active. Their silence has only fueled the fire of legend. My great coin collectors and lovers of history, thank you for tuning in to yet another fascinating journey into the unexpected world of rare coins, minting mysteries, and unimaginable value found in the most unassuming of places. Today's story is about a coin that was meant to be worth just 10 cents, a piece of change most of us wouldn't even glance at twice, let alone think twice about spending. But this isn't just any dime. This is the story of the 2014 Liberty Dime, a modern coin with roots deep in American numismatic history, and a value that now sits at an unbelievable $12 million. That's right, $12 million. All for a coin that came out of a routine minting year. What makes it so valuable? What kinds of errors could justify such a meteoric rise in price? How does a dime with a DE mint mark from 2014 turn into one of the rarest and most sought-after coins in the world? As we dive into this story, you'll see that it's not just one error that makes this coin special, it's the combination of several errors, the circumstances of their occurrence, the numismatic implications, the physical evidence, the wild theories that have surfaced since its discovery, and the feverish bidding wars that have erupted between collectors who understand exactly what this coin represents. It's the perfect storm of history, mystery, and market forces, all converging around one coin that quite literally rewrote what we thought was possible in modern minting. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just a casual fan of remarkable stories, this one will stay with you. The coin's story begins, unsurprisingly, in the United States Mint at Denver. The Denver Mint has long been one of the highest output facilities in the country, producing billions of coins every year. The year 2014 was no exception. Tens of millions of dimes rolled out of the facility that year, all bearing the standard Roosevelt profile, clad in copper nickel, with the familiar torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. There was no planned change in design. No commemorative releases. No special edition Liberty Dimes. And yet, one coin emerged, a dime bearing a date of 2014, the D mint mark, but with elements that should not and could not exist. What immediately made this coin stand out wasn't the date, or even the mint mark, it was the obverse design. Instead of Franklin D. Roosevelt's well-known and sharply struck profile, the coin's design seemed to be an amalgamation, a bizarre hybrid between Roosevelt and the classic Liberty figure, specifically the version used on the winged Liberty head, also known as the Mercury dime. At a glance, it appeared to be Roosevelt, but collectors noticed subtle features that didn't belong: a more elongated facial structure, slightly different hairline detail, and the unmistakable trace of the winged Phrygian cap behind the head. To those who knew what they were looking at, this wasn't just a struck-through-grease error or die fatigue. This was something much more serious, a mishubbed or misbared die featuring elements of two completely different eras of coinage. The existence of such a die shouldn't be possible. The design of the Mercury dime ended in 1945, when it was replaced by the Roosevelt design. All dies featuring Liberty were supposed to have been retired, destroyed, or archived securely under government supervision. Yet here it was, a modern dime, struck in 2014, showing faint but clear remnants of a design abandoned nearly 7 decades earlier. Theories exploded. Some believed it was a deliberate act, an inside job by a mint employee with access to historical dies. Others suggested the possibility that a hub or master die from the Mercury series had accidentally been stored with modern materials, reactivated unknowingly. The most plausible theory: a die clash during testing in the Denver Mint's production pipeline, involving a reused or experimental hub left unmarked. Whatever the origin, the image was clear enough to raise eyebrows at first glance and demand full inspection from numismatic experts. But the design anomaly was just the beginning. As if that weren't enough, the reverse of the coin presented an equally perplexing error. At first glance, the reverse seemed normal, the classic Roosevelt-era torch with olive and oak branches. But under magnification, collectors began to notice that the reverse strike was ever so slightly rotated, not enough to be immediately obvious, but around 12 degrees off-center. Even more fascinating, some of the lettering, particularly the words United States of America, showed doubling inconsistent with typical die wear. This wasn't machine doubling. It was a textbook example of hub doubling, known in the collector world as a double die. A 2014 double die reverse would already be of great interest to collectors. But in combination with an obverse that showed traces of the Liberty design, that took it to an entirely different level. The real kicker came when a metallurgical analysis was performed. The dime was expected to be standard-clad a copper core with nickel plating. Instead, the coin registered a slightly higher weight than usual. The deviation was small, only a fraction of a gram, but enough to merit deeper investigation. A more detailed breakdown revealed that the core alloy had traces of silver, about 5% by volume. This is highly irregular. The U.S. Mint stopped using silver in regular circulating dimes in 1964. While silver dimes are occasionally produced as part of special proof sets or commemorative issues, they are not made for general circulation, and certainly not with Denver mint marks in a standard production run. That led to speculation that this dime may have been struck on a leftover or misrouted planchet originally intended for a silver commemorative coin, or possibly an experimental alloy being tested internally. Either scenario would mean a significant deviation from standard production protocol. Then there's the rim. Another indicator that something went awry in the minting process is the rim of the coin, which showed an unusual finning effect, a thin, raised edge that forms when metal is forced outward during striking. While some finning is common in high-pressure strikes, this was excessive and uneven, suggesting the coin had been struck with too much pressure or that the collar die was improperly aligned. Further, the reading on the edge, those little ridges you find on the edge of most dimes, was irregular. There were more reeds on one side of the coin than the other, and the spacing between them was inconsistent. Again, this points to a failure in the striking process, possibly due to misalignment, or where on the collar die.at. This point, word of the coin's existence spread rapidly. Initially discovered by a collector in Arizona during a routine bankroll hunt, someone who had been searching thousands of dimes for years in hopes of finding silver, the coin was sent in for grading and authentication. Both PCGS and NGC agreed this was not just an ordinary error. It was an unintentional masterpiece. A convergence of minting anomalies so rare that their cumulative probability defied calculation. The coin was certified as Mint Error Unique, MS68, with specific notations for design hybridization, double die reverse, misaligned collar, off-metal planchet, and finning. Once the coin was authenticated, the question wasn't whether it was valuable, the question was how valuable. Initial offers from collectors reached the hundreds of thousands almost immediately. Within a month, a private auction was held by a major numismatic firm. The starting bid: $1 million. But things escalated quickly. Collectors recognized that this wasn't just a fluke, it was a modern coin that had become a living artifact, a collision point between the past and present, Roosevelt and Liberty, copper, nickel and silver, mechanical precision and unexplainable error. The final bid, placed by an anonymous European collector with a noted interest in American coinage history, came in at $12 million. Payment was arranged discreetly. Ownership passed quietly. But the legend had already taken root.